Welcome in, hockey fans. It's time now for the Berkshire Battalion Signal Corps podcast. A happy holidays to you wherever you may be. Al Kessler here. I'm joined by Ross Jacobs. How are you, Ross?
I am thrilled to be alive there, Alec. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Excited about this holiday season. We had another weekend with the Danbury Whalers. Friday night in Danbury, Saturday night back home at the Peter W. Foote. An unsuccessful weekend for the battalion, falling 4-3 Friday night and 5-1 on Saturday night back home at the Foote. Certainly a disappointing weekend for Berkshire. Let's start with the game on Friday. I was in attendance for that game. It was back and forth right down to the wire up until the third period when the Whalers came out with a lot of fire and tied the game at 3 and then would eventually get a power play goal to make it 4-3 and would hold on for the win. It was a rough outing for the battalion, but it was Louis George who really kept the team in the game. He made 38 saves on 42 shots. He was phenomenal in net, but a big injury for Berkshire in that game. Kirill Frolov breaking his knee on a really just a simple hockey play, a hit along the boards, and he is out for the season.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough loss. Team's already thin at defensemen with, Hammy going down and, just a number of guys who are new in the back line, and Frolov was starting to do some real serious contributions. They really need to settle down back there, but, at least they still have, your basic core. Sanders is back there, and he's really doing a really good job. He got the third star, in fact, on Saturday night. Kuda and Ritter are doing their best, and Dadsy is back, but I think he's still working up a little bit of a hill. So, the defensive core is definitely something to keep our eyes on as we move forward to coming up to the big road trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really got a feel for the young Russian Frolov. I mean, he doesn't speak English very well. He made it to the training camp here, didn't earn a spot on the team out of camp, stayed with the team on his own dime, even paid for his own immigration paperwork, slept on the floor in order to get a chance with the team, and when he finally does, he plays 5 or 6 games, injures his knee, he's got to fly back home, and that's not good. I mean, I really do feel for the guy. He was sobbing as he was taken to Danbury Hospital on Friday night. I mean, he was just very, very upset.
That really is a tough story to hear. And he was the only other Russian guy on the team. I know he got along really well with Goose. They were hanging out and, be able to converse in their native tongue.
Yeah.
And it didn't affect Goose's game at all, but, it's got to be a big blow for him, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's actually the youngest guy on the team. He's only just turned 21 recently. A very young man. He's younger than Matt Rosebrook as well, and younger than myself, actually.
You're all younger than me, so.
Very young guy, but definitely a big loss. It was a big game in Danbury. It was a fun game. Got to give a shout out, a lot of love and respect to the Armory fans. The Armory fans, about 8 of them made the trip, and I'm sorry if I can't get all of your names. They came down. They went toe-to-toe with Danbury's famous 102 section fans, and honestly, that night was the loudest that I've heard that building in a long since they won a championship. It was absolutely incredible. The Danbury fans, even though some of them would loathe to admit it, they loved having the Armory fans there, egging them on and, shouting at them and, even chirping goaltender Mike Brown in his own building when he would let goals in.
Best fans in the league.
Yeah,
that
for
section
sure.
They're making the season for a lot of the people coming to these things on a regular basis.
Yeah, and they were so loud. I had a Danbury fan who I'm friendly with came up to me and asked and said, "Oh, did they bring a bus down?" I said, "Excuse me?" They said, "Did the Armory fans, did they bring a bus down?" I said, "No, they all drove themselves." And she said, "Oh, well, what are there, about 15 or 20 of them?" I looked at her. I said, "There are 8." She said, "There are 8 people and they're making that much noise?" And I said, "Yeah."
And it's kind of funny you should say that because I was at the game on Saturday and there were a greater number than normal of Danbury sweaters. There was certainly no loss of a presence of the Danbury fans in the building at the Foote on Saturday, but they were all sort of sitting in the one section by the visitors' bench on the other side towards the men's room, and they were very quiet, and there was no big interaction. I mean, they were very polite and everything, and that's nice.
Oh, they're
but
great.
I think
they're
the
great
Armory
fans.
The Armory was trying to get their their hackles up, I don't think it was working. So they got on to Kevin Hoy instead.
Yeah. Well, they were
did that night.
They were great on Friday night. Really helped boost the morale of the team. That tough loss, though.
Came out flying, didn't they? They came out 3-1. They had a 3-1 lead going in, similar to the game they had against Dayton last Sunday before.
Yeah, and some gorgeous goals. Guskov and Kozlowskis in the second period, they scored literally 9 seconds apart, and that really just silenced the Danbury faithful down here in southern Connecticut, and the Armory fans were going absolutely berserk. It was a lot of fun.
That must have been great.
And of course,
it goes back to what the team keeps saying, the first goal. How important is that first goal?
It's very big. And of course, the story we've been talking about him all podcasts. This is honestly starting. We should almost rename it the Mike Dolman podcast. But we're going to have to discuss him again. His point streak continues. He had another assist on Friday night and got on the score sheet again Saturday night in the lone goal by Prendergast for the Battalion at home. So his point streak continues. I believe he's out now up to 8 or 9 games. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check. But certainly looking to build on the streak that got him the Rookie of the Month award in the Federal Hockey League. He could win that again, to be perfectly honest. He's playing absolutely sublime hockey.
And he's doing it really well on the road, too, which, the big road trip the week before last was a lot of his work. Getting that really set of good results up in Watertown and out in Dayton. So, hopefully he can keep that sauce up on the road and keep on bringing it.
Yeah. Now, moving on to Saturday night, a 5-1 loss to Danbury in Berkshire. 3 power play goals, all 3 of them in the first period. Solarev, Patch, and Frazier all scoring for Danbury. Just not clicking for the Battalion. They, at one point in the season, about 2 weeks ago, had the best penalty kill in the league. Now it's the worst. 6th.
Worst penalty kill, worst power play. It's something that they definitely need to work on as those special teams now.
Yeah, for sure. Very interesting, though. We were discussing this before. Bill Bird, the usual official scorer for the Battalion, dressed as an extra linesman for this game, which was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, it was a scream, frankly, for a lot of us regulars. The league somehow had assigned not only a new ref linesman crew to the Battalion Whalers game at the Foot. It was their first game at the FHL level, a father and son, Scott and Mitchell Spencer. But there was no second linesman, and Bill, God love him, he said, I got my stuff out in the car. He went out to the car, he suited up, and he went out there and played those lines for 60 minutes. And I think he could have gone for 60 more. He looked like he was having a blast out there. That's
good to see. I do remember him being a linesman for games a couple of years ago down here in Danbury as well. Let's look now at the transactions sheet, of course, for the Battalion. Kirill Frolov, he's been placed on season-ending IR. Huge blow there, losing that blue line presence. He was playing very, very well. I think really one of the weaknesses in his game was that he was pinching too much, trying to get too involved offensively, and he would get burned defensively as a result. But his defensive game, especially in his own zone, was strong. Matt Rosebrook.
Yeah, he was fast, great on the back check.
Yeah.
Really
Matt Rosebrook has been activated from IR, and he will likely be on the ice for this 4-game road trip coming up. We'll get to that in just a second as well. For those of you Battalion fans who are watching the waiver wire and the Federal Hockey League transactions, which of course you can find on the Federal Hockey League website, Mike Kozlowskis has been placed on a team suspension. The reason for that is because Kozlowskis, he does not live in North Adams. He commutes from Waltham, Mass., I believe. I probably got that wrong. He'll probably let me know. So he has to work, unfortunately, when they leave for the road trip, so he will not be able to make this 4-game trip. So don't worry, Kaz will certainly be back. He makes all the road games that he can. Of course, he does have to work as well. Actually works as some sort of medical researcher back in his hometown.
Very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Kaz is a great guy. He's good and a good hockey player.
Yeah, excellent
but
energy. Very fast.
Always, but then that goes back to something we've been saying the whole season long, where do the lines have time to get to each other and gel and figure out where everybody's going to be after a while, or do you just keep on playing with juggled lines every game and watch it? Have to keep on reinventing the wheel every period practically.
Yeah. Now for the coming Now, for the coming weekend, it's going to be really interesting, a 4-game road trip, but despite the fact that that's going to be very hard, 4 games in 4 days in 3 different states, rather, while that's going to be pretty tough for the Battalion, the bright side of it, they don't have to play against Danbury or Watertown. All of their games are against Dayton, Danville, and Steel City. They start off Thursday night in the Hara Arena in Dayton, Ohio, playing against the Demons. Then on Friday night, they're going to play Danville in the David S. Palmer Arena in Illinois. Come back to Dayton for a Saturday night matchup and wind it all up with a Sunday matinee game against the Steel City Warriors on December the 21st. Now, that's going to be very interesting as we look at the standings right now. All of these teams clumped together. The Dayton Demons, who Berkshire will play twice, are sitting with an 11-2, 2-5 record, which puts them at a .650 winning percentage. They've got 39 points. The points are recorded in the Federal Hockey League. However, they don't count for the purposes of standings. Danbury right now is sitting in first with a .737%. Watertown just behind them with a .702. So going to be interesting here. Berkshire with a .397. They're a ways away from Dayton. However, with 2 games up against Dayton this weekend, they could try and gain some ground on them. And, of course, they've got that game Friday night against Danville. Danville's with a .394 winning percentage. They're knocking on the door there. They're threatening to take that 4th place and playoff spot away from the Battalion.
That really does look to be the story of this. You can see that Danbury, Watertown, and Dayton are probably going to be in the playoffs, and Steel City is not. So that leaves the playoff spot fight through to Berkshire and Danville for the rest of the season. I think that's going to constitute the storyline through the end of March.
Yeah, and of course, Steel City not to be discounted as well. They got their first win not long ago, their .104 winning percentage. Pretty low, however, they're going to have to come up with something very special to fight back into this one. But it's definitely looking
I think they probably can be discounted at least, a few percent.
Yeah. Going to be very interesting 2 games against this tough Dayton team. The last time Berkshire and Dayton met, it was a loss for Berkshire in their own building, a disappointing loss as well, as Dayton came back to win that one. But they're a veteran team, the defending champions, a very tough team as well, and they certainly know how to win. It's going to be a tough test for the Battalion on the road this weekend.
I don't think there's any gimmies on the road for this team. They're going to have to fight for every period, every point, every shift. And that's the only way they can look at it is go out there and just do their best every shift. It's a tired old hockey maxim, but it's really the only thing they can do. And on every shift, they really do have a way of getting through. And they still need to, I think, increase their physicality. They need to increase their net front presence. They need to get stronger on the forecheck. And, of course, they need to beef up those special teams. But the raw talent is there, and hopefully these coaching distractions will roll off them, and they'll be able to bond together on this road trip, as good teams do, and really start to pull it together for that push. Because really what they need to do is make it into the playoffs. And as soon as they do, they've beaten Danbury, they've beaten Watertown, they've beaten Dayton. These are beatable teams. That means if they get into the playoff structure, they have a shot at the championship.
They absolutely do. Of course, when the playoffs start, everybody's record is set back at 0. A long stretch of road games for the Battalion coming up, though, as we've got this 4-game weekend coming up, which will culminate on the 21st of December, which is a Sunday. The next Berkshire game will be a Friday and Saturday series in Danbury, December 26th and December 27th, just after Christmas. And then after that, it's going to be another game in Danbury on January 2nd, which is a Friday, followed up by a Saturday matchup against Watertown in Watertown on January the 3rd. And following that, another Thursday road game as Berkshire will go into Watertown once again, and that's January the 8th. Berkshire will not be home again until Saturday, January 10th, when they take on Dayton for 2 games, the January the 10th, January the 11th. Very much looking forward to that one, as I will be freshly returning from St. Martin. Not to brag, but...
Oh, rub it in.
Yeah, I will. I'll bring you...
January in North Adams.
I'll bring you some sand.
January in North Adams sounds like every bit as much fun as January in Watertown does.
Yeah, absolutely.
But enjoy St. Martin. And it's going to be long, practically a month between home games for... the Armory and for myself and the volunteers in the box and you who's worked the games, the security people, the concession people. They've really it's really a great atmosphere in that rink when everyone comes together to put on that show, to put on some professional hockey.
Yeah, it really is.
To put 600 people there, to get them all entertained and psyched about something here in this town.
Yeah.
It's really been great to have this team here.
And I love it. Being an outsider in North Adams, it's a phenomenal town. It's a lot of fun to work there, a lot of fun to call hockey games there. And, you know, people in North Adams, they know their hockey. They really do. I mean,
this rink has been in town for many, many years. The state college, North Adams State, now MCLA, had a grand hockey tradition. But now, you know, MCLA doesn't have a hockey team now. The local high school doesn't have a hockey team anymore. You know, there is, but the local teams from the other teams in Berkshire County play up here. There's a ton of youth hockey. There's a ton of open hockey, rec league hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a women's hockey team that plays up here. It really is a phenomenal spot. And anybody who is listening to this podcast, you know, check the schedule for the Foot Arena. And, you know, there's bound to be something down there during this long interim stretch that will get you down to that rink and take in the vast wonder that it contains.
Speaking of, didn't the local Wacona Warriors, weren't they I think I saw something on Facebook about this, the Western Mass State Champions? Or am I mistaken?
The Wacona Warriors, Wacona is, the Wacona High School itself is down in Dalton in central Berkshire County, but since it's one of the big programs around here, it draws from the local high schools in town. So McCann Tech in North Adams and Drury Players and Hoosick Valley, they all come down to play for the Wacona team. And they are, since they're able to grab from such a hockey-mad area with such a great talent pool and get them all together and work here at the Foot, they have great coaching staff and good kids. Yes, congratulations to them. It's always great to see really good, strong hockey in Western Massachusetts. Look, I'm from Eastern Massachusetts, where they're just completely raving hockey mad.
Yeah.
But in Western Massachusetts, they're certainly giving them a run for their money.
Yeah. Well, down
we
here,
got a couple of Western Mass kids in the team. You know, Shrewsbury, which is really Western Massachusetts, but close to Central Mass, and Kaz, obviously, and Rio, local guys making good.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of local, for those of you Battalion fans who are looking to make the trip down to Danbury, which I highly recommend, it is a lot of fun down here. It's only about a 2.5 hour drive. It's a really nice town, fairly big city, actually. It's much larger than Pittsfield, to put it into perspective. But seeing a game at the Danbury Ice Arena, it's definitely one of the best rinks in the league, for sure. So it's going to be really interesting. If any of the fans are interested in coming down, certainly contact me. You can find me on Facebook, Al Kessler, or on Twitter at CT_hockey. If you contact me, let me know you're coming to the games. I can certainly help you out with anything that you need, give you some recommendations on good restaurants, let you know where to sit and where not to sit in the rink. But the games in Danbury, Friday and Saturday, December 26th and 27th, respectively. And that's followed up by a January 2nd game in Danbury as well, which should be very interesting as well, Thursday, the 22nd of January. And I should be at all of those games, weather permitting, of course. So it'll be a lot of fun. It's really fun to see hockey. I recommend for any hockey fans listening, try to make it to Danbury to see a game at least once this season.
Yep. Fairfield County, you hit it. It's great. It is a wonderful community in its own right. And the surrounding towns, Stamford and Darien and all those other towns there. And then, of course, it's a quick Metro North right into town. Into the city.
Oh, yeah. So, my town.
Yeah. Your town.
Yeah. But actually, very interesting. Danbury's not actually in Fairfield. Sorry to correct you. Danbury's not actually in Fairfield County. No, it's in. I should know this, but I know that I'm from the town of Ridgefield, which is in Fairfield County, and it borders Danbury. So Danbury is right on the border there, but
it's right outside.
Yeah, it's been gerrymandered out of the Fairfield County district.
I apologize to all the wonderful people in southwestern Connecticut.
Oh, you don't need to. Don't worry about it. They'll deal with it.
They're a resilient bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, but certainly
they too will survive.
Yes, it's certainly a lovely area. Also, it's hockey crazy around here too. I mean, the NHL players who make their summer homes here is incredible. Marty St. Louis, Matt Molson, Mark Messier coaches a team in the area. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. The amount of great hockey players. Gordie Howe is in the area very frequently as well. It's a hockey crazy area. Max Pacioretty of the Canadiens is from down here. Kevin Shattenkirk of the St. Louis Blues is actually from one town over from me in Brewster, New York, which is right on the border. You've got just a ton of Jonathan Quick, of course, who's from this area. I actually, when I was a young man, very, very young, he was part of an old group of older kids helping out with my camps. I did a hockey summer camp, and he was one of the older guys helping out as well. So he's just a heck of a guy. But Connecticut, really, it's hockey. We're not Massachusetts yet, but we're trying to be.
And of course, quick, Western Massachusetts, UMass Amherst.
As it's going to be a lot of fun.
He's got a foot in both camps then.
Yeah, so he's got split loyalties. As definitely looking forward to this. A tough 4-game road trip for the battalion coming up. Of course, as we said, not going to be home again until the 10th. We'll keep these podcasts rolling during the holiday season as well to keep you appraised of what's going on with the Berkshire Battalion. Of course, this is the Berkshire Battalion Signal Corps. Alan Ross here with you. As anything else to add for this edition, Ross?
I just want to tell everyone listening out there to have a great and happy holiday and go Battalion. Yeah,
absolutely. Everybody stay safe out there. It's always horrible to hear about the crazy things that some people do around this holiday season. Don't drink and get behind the wheel. Just it's not worth it. Just be safe this holiday season and enjoy it with your family. And of course, watch some great hockey as well. Got the Winter Classic to look forward to. But excellent. So we'll be back with you on the next edition of the Signal Corps podcast to cover this 4-game road trip and the games coming up. Have a safe and happy holidays, everybody. And we will see you next time. It's the Berkshire Battalion Signal Corps podcast. Let's go Battalion.